When people learn that I'm a nurse, quite often they assume that my work includes passing out medications, following the orders of a doctor, or only providing direct patient care. And while these responsibilities are all extremely essential to the role of a clinical nurse, nurses are also leaders and innovators and practitioners. In fact, being a nurse taught me how to become an expert in communication, an expert at understanding very complex systems, and an expert at problem solving. You see, all these skills would come in handy as I courageously started a healthcare consulting firm. And as a consultant, I solved the very same problems that I mastered as a nurse, but now as an expert. You see, I've come to learn that no matter what industry you're in or what professional title you have, we all have an inner expert. My intention is for you to walk away today knowing how to awaken your inner expert. You see, awakening my inner expert wasn't an overnight process. It's been a complete life's journey, a journey of self-discovery, of self-reflection, and really acknowledging and stepping into my full worth and potential. In 2019, I wrote my very first book called The Power of Expertise, and I shared how I transitioned from nurse to healthcare consultant. And in that very moment, everything would change. I mean, I completely disrupted the traditional role of a nurse. Let's just say the floodgates of outreach started to pour into my inbox. And still to this day, I receive messages and emails from not just nurses, but doctors and pharmacists and healthcare professionals from all backgrounds, curious to know how they can take their experience and apply it to becoming consultants. So I started to have conversations with these very intelligent minds. And after having so many conversations, I started to notice themes in the talks that we were having. There were themes of discontentment, themes of burnout in their current role, and a lot of themes of frustration. Frustration because they'd done every single thing society said they needed to do in order to be successful. They'd gone to school, received numerous degrees. They landed great careers. In fact, many had multiple accolades. But yet they still came to me feeling like something was missing. They were still searching for their options. It became abundantly clear to me that these very intelligent minds were in a state of dormant brilliance. And I can relate because I've also experienced being in a state of dormant brilliance, where I found myself searching for my purpose and searching for options, although I had a very great career as a nurse. But I was searching for options that only my inner expert could create. If you're unfamiliar with dormant brilliance, let me provide you with a definition. Dormant brilliance is when you are completely unaware of the skills, the gifts, and the expertise that you possess that make you a complete force to be reckoned with. You know how to solve every single problem. You've mastered every skill in the book. And as a matter of fact, everyone around you sees you as an expert and a resource, but you. So in other words, you've completely downplayed your own superpowers. So you live day by day, and hour by hour, and minute by minute, in the shadow of your inner expert. So reflecting back and thinking of all the conversations that I had and continue to have with these very intelligent minds, I'm not surprised that they felt discontentment and frustration and burnout. Because what I know to be true about being in a state of dormant brilliance is that you always feel like you're searching for your life's purpose. So no matter how amazingly smart you are, or how many people praise you for all your accomplishments, you have failed to do one important thing. Awaken your inner expert. I remember when I was first introduced to the concept of an expert. It was in undergraduate studies in nursing school many, many years ago. And we were learning about Dr. Berner's novice to expert nursing theory. And in Dr. Patricia Berner's theory, she introduced you to the phases of how you become an expert. It started off with you being a novice, and then you transition to advanced beginner. And from advanced beginner, you became proficient, then competent, and then you graduated to being an expert. Now, this is where the fireworks are supposed to go off, but there were no fireworks for me. In fact, it would take years and momentum and some trial and error, but I would become an expert. And not just because of Dr. Berner's theory, but because I did the hard internal work that it would take to force myself out of a state of dormant brilliance to awaken and acknowledge my inner expert. For so many years, I felt like I was disqualified to be an expert because I myself harbored false truths about what an expert looked like, about the credentials an expert had. So before we move forward, I want to make sure that we dispel any myths about what it takes to be an expert. Number one, being an expert doesn't require you to have a Harvard degree or any degree at all for that matter. In fact, what is required is that you be extremely knowledgeable about the subject matter of your choice. The second thing I want you to remember is that being an expert doesn't necessarily have to be job related. Being an expert can be birthed from your inner passions. This means your inner expert can be an author, an artist, a life coach, a chef. The key is to be guided by your inner expert. And the last thing I want you to remember is being an expert has no age limitations or restrictions. Our youth are so intelligent and knowledgeable. The sooner we as parents allow our children to release their inner expert, the less time they'll spend as adults searching for options and searching for their purpose. So now that we've released those false truths that you and I have both been harboring, I want to share with you how you can awaken your own inner expert. The first thing we have to focus on is self-reflection. Self-reflection is when we have to ask ourselves a lot of tough questions. Questions that will require us to be almost painfully honest with ourselves and how we respond. I had to ask myself questions like, are you happy in both your professional and your personal life? And if you're not happy, what's going to make you happy? Do you feel fulfilled? And if you don't feel fulfilled, what's going to make you feel fulfilled? For me, I had to look directly in a mirror and acknowledge the fact that although I've had a very gratifying role as a nurse, there were aspects of my job that didn't make me happy, that left me feeling like something was missing. Self-reflection forced me to dissect what I didn't enjoy so I could focus on what I did enjoy. And those topics I mastered. I became the expert. The next thing we have to focus on is self-mastery. Self-mastery, much like self-reflection, requires us to ask ourselves a lot of questions as well. But these questions are a little bit different. These questions help you tap into your zone of genius. I had to ask myself questions like, what gifts do you possess that others praise you for? What knowledge do you have that can be shared with the world? What skills do you possess that can be shared with others so they can hit their goals. I'm quite sure there's many of you here today who've been operating as experts for years in a dormant state. One thing that I want you to remember is that your inner expert is a thought leader. Thought leadership needs to be shared to influence change. That's powerful. The next thing we have to focus on, and this one's a big one, it's removing conditional restraints. And newsflash, if you're not familiar with conditional restraints, we've been conditioned by society to be generalists, not experts. So in order for me to release my inner expert, I had to completely remove society's version of what success looked like and the roadmap I needed to take in order to be successful. This meant I had to completely free my status quo mindset completely. Also, removing conditional restraints for me looked like not waiting for permission to share my expertise. And I'm going to share something that I've never shared publicly. But removing conditional restraints also looked like me dropping out of a PhD program because I had been conditioned to believe that I needed the credentials of a PhD to validate that I was an expert. That was another false truth. I would soon realize that the only validation that I needed would be the results I generated from those I shared my expertise with. I needed no permission, no validation, and no additional credentials to be the expert I am today. And the same applies for you too. And the very last thing that we have to do to step out of a state of dormant brilliance to awaken our inner expert is to acknowledge our value. The moment you acknowledge your value is the moment that your inner expert begins to breathe. This is that pivotal point where you acknowledge all of your own attributes that no one else can bring to the table but you. In fact, this was a life-changing moment in my own life when I realized that I am an asset. My skills, my gifts, my expertise are all valuable. Along this journey, I've come to realize that the moment that you step out of the state of dormant brilliance and you truly awaken your inner expert, that's when you're living out your life's purpose. Just imagine, where will we be without experts? Experts who unite us. Experts who show us how to improve. Experts who solve complex problems. Experts who show us how to laugh. And also experts who show us what's possible. In this moment, I ask you to close your eyes with me. And as you close your eyes, imagine yourself walking into a room with a beautiful full-length mirror in front of you. I want you to walk closer and closer to that mirror and start to peer in your reflection. Gaze into your eyes, and I want you to listen to my voice. You are an expert. Your skills, your gifts, your knowledge and expertise need to be shared with the world to influence change. It's time to awaken your inner expert. Now open your eyes. Thank you.